So we'll move on down to any comments that board members want to make. Well, first we'll go to item 3A, which is a review of the resolution providing for the levy and collection of an annual ad valorem tax on all property within the boundaries of Tarrant County College District in preparation for a public hearing on September 23rd, next Thursday. Ms. Alanese is going to make that presentation. Good afternoon, Susan.
Good afternoon. So as we talked about last month, we are required to hold a public hearing on the proposed tax levy, and that was advertised on September the 12th. And so at your meeting next week, we will post it as a public hearing and accept any public comment before you adopt the final resolution on the tax rate, which is the same total rate as last year.
Anyone have questions about this process or where we are in it?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 3B is review of the August 12th work session minutes, which are in our notebook. Has anyone got questions or comments about corrections for the minutes of the last work session? All right, let's move on to item 3C, review of the August 19th Board of Trustees meeting minutes. Are there any corrections or anything anyone's concerned about relative to that? All right, we'll go to item 3D, which is Trustees Remarks. Anyone have remarks they want to make? This is a quiet group today. Leonard, you didn't have anything. Okay. For one, and I understand other board members, some other board members have received comments recently concerning what is described as a high rate of turnover among faculty and staff. And Chancellor, I believe you and Ms. Ayala may have had some discussion about this. And I'd like to ask that if you could give us some sort of a report about overall staffing, faculty and staff turnover. I think it'd be helpful if we could get something and sort of in the perspective of how it compares to prior years. I do want to acknowledge that some of the comments I've received have been in the form of unsigned letters, and my experience has been that it's easy to make assertions and accusations in anonymous letters. Sometimes they prove to have some merit, and very frequently they do not. But I think the board needs to see the actual facts. So if we could get something like that either next month or possibly at the board's retreat, I think that would be helpful. And I think you and Mrs. Ayala can work out the details as far as I'm concerned. I think that'd be helpful. Any other comments, remarks? All right, we'll move on to item 4, which is the Chancellor's overview.
Thank you, Mr. Barr. Just a little different message today. The college is extremely grateful for the federal dollars that we have received to support students and advance significant projects that are really positively impacting the college. And I mention it today because we do have 4 items on the agenda that speak to that, so I wanted to call that out. 3 of which are technology related and a Wi-Fi expansion, as well as expanding the student computer loan program, loaning devices to students, enhancing our virtual desktop infrastructure to be much more robust. So that's in the technology arena. And then the last one speaks to the bipolar ionization equipment for the, to ensure a good clean air flow, if you will, through the campuses. So we would not be able to do these things without the federal dollars, but it certainly comes in handy to be able to do so. So we're very grateful for that, and you'll get a more expanded presentation on all 4 of those items. So thank you, Mr. Barr.
Thank you, sir. All right, we will move on down to item 5, review of proposed agenda items for the board meeting. We start with advancing economic programs, and those projects start with item 5A, which is consideration and approval of a contract with Hahnfeld, Hoffer, Stanford for the design services on the district-wide basic and provisional classroom upgrades. Dr. Blankenbaker is here to make that presentation.
Good afternoon, Vice President Barr, members of the Board of Trustees,
Serena, your mic.
Now.
That's better.
Okay,
Much
let's
better.
start again. Thank you. Good afternoon, Vice President Barr, members of the Board of Trustees, and Dr. Giovannini. I have a few slides to provide you with context for this item, which is brought forth to you for your consideration and approval. It aligns to the college's goal of being student-ready, and also to the integrated instructional learning environments principle. So as a college, we are implementing a renovation schedule of formal learning spaces developed by the ILI principal in partnership with our real estate and facilities division. Classrooms are being intentionally renovated following the design and functional criteria that was developed by the ILI advisory panel. And the advisory panel is comprised of faculty, staff, and representatives from real estate, as well as from our IT department. So this time, 42 classrooms have been identified for the scope of services for renovation during fiscal year 2022. And after I share with you information on the slides, Susan Alanis will provide you additional delineation of what you are approving for this month and then for next month. So the scope of the ILI principle focuses on meeting students where they are. We do this by promoting the use of approaches based on the neuroscience of learning, designing versatile spaces, and adopting cutting-edge technology. So as a college, we have identified strategies which support engaged learning. We want to ensure that we are creating environments where pedagogy, space, and technology work together to facilitate connections students should be making to apply what they learn so that they can be successful in a global work environment which demands very specific skills in the 21st century and beyond. So as an outcome of research and benchmarking, faculty have determined that pedagogy should be the driver and influence the kind of technology we select and spaces we design at this college. Faculty have been at the forefront of determining that integrative learning is the type of learning we want to see happen. And this type of learning fosters interdisciplinary, transformative, and collaborative environments that facilitates the conversion of theory into practice to develop world-ready students. So through faculty input, we've identified features of a formal classroom conducive to integrative learning to take place. So we are currently including as many of these features in formal learning spaces when we renovate classrooms or build new classrooms as funding allows. We also identified technology components which help facilitate engaged learning. Technology in the classroom should be integrated in such a way that it builds flexibility in how course content is displayed. Technology should also be integrated to promote adaptability in student collaboration through a digital interface. So in addition to creating design and functional criteria for ILI classroom standards, we also developed an implementation framework in partnership with real estate and facilities under the leadership of Susan Alanis. So this framework acknowledges the current conditions of classroom spaces and allows for a phased approach for us to upgrade classrooms to the next level of the current condition. As a result, the following 5 renovation levels were identified and recommended. You see the 5 categories and the descriptors that are outlined for your information. So we've created a prioritization list to help us in selecting the appropriate classrooms to renovate each year. This list includes 6 criteria that you will see on the next slide. We take into consideration in our review. All right, so these are the 6 criteria that we consider each time we develop a list for each academic year for our renovation schedule. We also recognize the levels of communication and training needed for this implementation schedule to be effective across the college, right? We're a huge college. We created this process map during our 2020 launch, which incorporates feedback from all constituents. This is faculty, staff, our deans, as well as our vice presidents and our provosts. For example, we heard from our constituents the need to have additional training be offered. This has now also been added as highlighted in light blue, and it's part of our Elite Classroom Innovation Professional Development Plan being implemented. This reflects TCC's discipline of continuous improvement. So thank you for the opportunity this afternoon to share with you as you consider your approval. This request is in alignment with the work of the ILI Advisory Panel in coordination with real estate and facilities. This is an excellent example of the success of our 3G8P work in support of student learning, which is the core competency of our college. So I'm now going to invite Susan Alanis to provide further context.
As Susan's making her way up, I just want to emphasize again Serena's last point related to the integration of the 3GAP work. So what you heard about was pedagogy, you heard about space, you heard about training, and you heard about class schedule. None of those things are done in isolation. They're done together, if you will, and bringing those items together in an integrated approach to get to the right answer. They're not siloed activities. And so thank you, Zarina, for bringing reference to that.
Sure, and I just want to offer a couple of housekeeping things. So we are going to substitute some of the discussion language before the version that you vote on next week to explain that this actually, 42 classrooms cover all of the different types of classrooms, where previously our pay-as-you-go program was limited to the basic and provisional classrooms, and that's been expanded. So we need to update the discussion, as well as the table in the back does not correctly reflect the amount of $541,000 that's included in the recommendation. So we apologize for that. But also I'd like to prepare you that, again, this is the pay-as-you-go portion of our activity. Next month you will also receive a similar recommendation related to the portion of the classrooms that we do each year that are associated with the bond program. And the reason we've made that distinction now is that as we plan and coordinate bond projects that can be part of larger renovations to existing facilities that include some of the classrooms that need these upgrades, then they're incorporated in that. So they're treated a little bit differently in the contracting process. So you'll see that second action item next month for the remainder of the scheduled classrooms for this year that would actually be funded out of the bond program. Okay.
Good.
Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, Larry?
What makes the difference? How do you decide which one out of the bond program or out of the pay-as-you-go?
Well, so it's really just all about scheduling and coordination. And so as we look globally across projects that might be happening in a particular building, and we're touching more of the building, then we move those classroom upgrades and renovations into that overall look. These are a little bit more isolated and standalone in existing facilities that are not going to be part of a larger project in the near future.
Jeannie?
Other than the feedback on the requirement for more training, have you received any feedback, and that this may be for?
That's probably for Dr.
Yes.
Baker.
Have you received any additional feedback other than the need for training from faculty who are using the renovated spaces?
Yes, and the feedback has been communication, more communication, and vertical deployment.
Serena, can you go to the microphone? Thank you.
Thank you. The feedback that we received was, number one, for us to have a process map, which we developed. The other was to ensure that everybody involved in not just being present in the classroom, but also assigning faculty scheduling in the classroom, also was aware of what the schedule was. So it wasn't something that is done in isolation by real estate and facilities by one of their staff members. It is done in coordination with faculty and also deans, so that the deans are aware of which classrooms will be taken out of pocket and that the schedule is in alignment with the number of classes we need for that particular discipline. And any adjustments that need to happen are taking place through that facilitated process. So communication, input on exactly which classroom will be out of pocket, and then training. So that even when we hire an adjunct faculty, because we want to be agile at the last minute, who should be supporting that adjunct faculty in learning how to use the technology and the space in the classroom. So that's the professional development we've implemented.
Any other questions? Susan, I just want to acknowledge the fact that we're getting the kind of information I'd been hoping to see relative to the selection process, and this is very helpful. I think it increases our comfort level with what's being done, the selection process. So thank you for accomplishing that. Okay, item 5B is consideration and approval of the purchase of 2,000 Surface Go tablets from Xerox Business Solutions Southwest. Mr. Pacheco.
Good afternoon. The proposed action in front of you is for the purchase of 2,000 Surface Go tablets, which would be purchased with the funds from the Higher Education Emergency Relief. These tablets will replace the 652 Chromebooks, which were part of the COWS program, which COWS stands for Computers on Wheels, which loaned out tablets to students for short-term use and will be out of warranty this January. During COVID, the COWS Chromebooks were utilized in our emergency laptop relief effort for staff needing to work remotely. The proposed purchase of these 2,000 Surface tablets, Go tablets, replaces the 652 Chromebooks and adds 1,348 new devices. These devices will use existing LTE SIM cards, which were purchased in April of last year with CARES Act funds. The new Surface Go tablets will allow students to utilize their cellular Wi-Fi services anywhere for free. The purchase of these new Surface Go tablets will bring our current fleet of loanable student devices to 3,000 divided among the campus's libraries, increasing our old capacity by 70%. The addition of these new Surface Go tablets will help TCC in its effort to bridge the digital divide by serving students who lack internet access at home. Is there any questions?
I feel very, I've got to talk this way, but look at you.
I know a lot of school districts are going through this expansion of Chromebook and tablet devices to support the same type of program as this. And I've been surprised to learn of the loss and or damage rate. Are you tracking or do you have any information on if you're losing devices or if devices are not being returned to you as a part of this program, or is this primarily just to expand the program?
This is to expand the program, and we do work closely with the libraries when it comes down to lost devices. Before this, we were using tablets, Android tablets, which are somewhat de minimis in cost. And when we lost devices, we usually gave the students, generally the first time around, a free pass on it, just because it was so inexpensive for us. This right here will be a little bit more differently, and we are working with the library to come up with a method to either try to recover it or account for how we go about doing that. But that's a work in progress.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, sir. Let's see, you've got the next item as well. Consideration and approval of purchases from GDT, Graybar, and Premier Communications to upgrade all campuses to Wi-Fi technology across the district in the amount not to exceed $3,572,000.
So this exciting program action that for your proposal to upgrade all campuses in the district to Wi-Fi 6 technology. Funding for this project will come from HERF. Wi-Fi 6 is a new standard in Wi-Fi technology that was designed to improve the reliability and speed of wireless networks. It is especially helpful in public spaces where numerous devices are connected to the same network. Wi-Fi 6 will give our students the ability, give the staff the ability to pick up and move anywhere on any campus and continue to engage in either academic or administrative functions. All non-Wi-Fi 6 based technology will be replaced with this upgrade, and TCC's wireless coverage will expand across the entire district, including all campuses, greenbelts, dead zones, space between buildings, parking lots. This upgrade will also allow for free community internet access as a service to our constituents across the county when on TCCD properties on our district spaces. The upgrade to Wi-Fi 6 is crucial to support the strategic technology initiatives that we're getting from the 3GAP, such as advanced wayfinding, space utilization tracking, student support, first responder assistance, asset and inventory management, automated attendance tracking, and remote classrooms, just to name a few use cases. One thing to note is the TCC has taken advantage of federal funds to expand the Wi-Fi access, and we will accomplish much in this coming year, if not all. But the implementation before our funding deadline is next summer. In the event we run out of time, we will finish the expansion with general funds. This was always contemplated. We were just going to do it to over a 2 to 3 year period of time. Is there any questions?
I don't see any, so we move to 5D, consideration approval to purchase from Sequel Data Systems, Inc. and Dell Technologies for purchases to upgrade and expand the virtual desktop infrastructure environment.
The proposed action is a request to upgrade and expand our VDI platform here at TCC with the funding, again, from HERFs. VDI is our virtual desktop infrastructure. Over the last few years, the college has been in the process of transitioning classrooms and labs into multidisciplinary spaces using VDI technology. VDI allows for the building of virtual classrooms and desktops for virtually any educational need. With VDI, computer servers present virtual classrooms to students via our network and or the internet, allowing classroom content to be added as needed and any changes made available to all students using VDI simultaneously. One thing to note as we expand our VDI capabilities for our students is that the ongoing annual operational costs will be assumed by TCC going forward after this year. Not the hardware, just the licensing aspect of that. If approved, the project will allow TCC to continue to expand our current VDI platform, meaning that more classrooms and lab spaces here at TCC will soon benefit from this technology. The project will also provide a secure technological experience for our students in addition to being cost-effective for the district. Are there any questions?
Any questions? All right, sir. Thank you very much. We'll move on to item 5E, consideration and approval of the annual renewal of proctoring services with Proctorio. I guess if I put my glasses on, I can read better. In the amount of $600,000. Dr. LeBlanc.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So, yes, we are recommending your approval to renew a contract. We have a 5-year option. We are on year 4 for that option. To renew the Proctorio Inc. online proctoring and authentic. I can't speak it today either. Can you do it? and reaffirm that the student that's taking the test is the student that should be taking the test. So the contract is based on a fixed fee of $15 per test, and with a spending authority established each year with the board approval. So it is a software-based proctoring system for online exams and quizzes. And we used it continuously this past year when we transitioned from face-to-face to online. Faculty have learned how to use it and would like to continue using this service.
Any questions? Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, we move on to item 5F, consideration and approval of recommended revisions to multiple board policies and regulations. Ms. Carol Bracken is going to talk to us about that, and you have given us a book of changes. What do we really need to know out of this?
Good afternoon. Let me start with some basics for you again. As you all know, our policy manual is written by TASB, the Texas Association of School Boards. They write the policy manuals for both K through 12 institutions and many of the community colleges here in Texas. Their policy manual is divided into two parts, and then there's one part that's ours alone. Part one is the legal policy, which is something we have no input on, and it's a recapitulation of federal and state statutes, regulations, case law, regulations, and other binding legal matters. Those they write that policy for us. It's promulgated, uploaded to our online policy manual, and we have no involvement in it. The second piece of our policy is our local policy. They help us with that. In many cases, they promulgate templates, proposed policies that complement the legal policy. We have some input into that. That is for matters that are more institution-specific. It can't be in contravention of legal policy. It's supposed to be complementary, and it's supposed to address our operations. When we want to request a change to our local policies, after our staff has reviewed them, we send them first to TASB for TASB to give us an initial overview as to whether or not they approve them. Once that occurs, staff comes to you and asks that you approve whatever it is we're asking you to approve. The third piece of our policy manual is new, relatively new, about 2 years old for us, and it's called regulations. It's a piece of policy that deals with procedures. It has to do with how many people are on this committee, how many times a month does it meet, very operational managerial aspects. The regulations, or procedures if you'd want to call them that, are not something that's subject to the board's approval because they are management issues. Local policy is subject to board approval. On top of that, we have twice a year we receive from TASB updates. We receive them generally in May and again in December-ish. In years like this year where we've had a legislative session, the May update comes a little bit later, and it's intended to address the changes that we got from the legislature in this past 6 months or so, as well as anything at the federal level or in case law that's particularly important. This month we are bringing you update 41. It deals primarily with the updates from the legislative session. In looking at the memo, you'll see that the bottom 8 policies that are listed, BBE, BE, DHC, EFB, BBF, DEC, DLB, and ECC are all part of that update 41. The most impactful is the one that comes with DHC. It deals with reporting requirements regarding child abuse and neglect. Mercifully for us, that's not something we have an awful lot of input on. We don't have as much of that as the K through 12 schools do. BBE and BBF might be of interest to you. It's a little bit of updating on policies that impact the board. BBE deals with authority. BBF is a restatement of the board's ethical code. DLB is interesting because all it is a recapitulation and relocation of a policy that was actually in something else. Unlike the last year's or the last legislative session, this really was not a particularly impactful legislative session for institutions of higher education. But I recommend them to you for your information. You'll find that there are both clean versions and red lines so that you can follow the changes that were made. Now, the top 7 policies are changes that we, the staff, are bringing to the board and requesting for approval. These all relate to various local policies. The first 4, DBA, DCA, DCB, and DJ, all relate to issues concerning the faculty. And they concern a collaboration that has been ongoing between HR, the Provost's office, JCC, the Chancellor, and the presidents. And they deal with issues such as credentialing of faculty, faculty contracting, tenure, workload and schedules, and then below that also student employment, that's FEB and FEB regulations. With regard to FEB, this is a good example where we have taken the local policy and we've pulled out the portions of it that really relate more to managerial matters and less about policy matters. Then the last one that's in this group is CF Local, and it's a procurement policy, and the change that's been made relates to the authority that you gave to the Chancellor some years ago with respect to the execution of electrical utility contracts. We're asking permission to add natural gas contracts and other utility contracts to that particular authority. I think I've confused everybody enough. Are there any questions?
How critical is it that we adopt this at this September 23rd board meeting?
We can, you can.
The only reason I ask, it's an enormous amount of information. And I think, obviously, the board ought to be more concerned about the local issues.
It would be good if they could be done in September, but if the board feels it needs additional time or additional information, that it could be pushed. Or if you'd like, we can certainly sit down and we can give you, if you've got questions that you wanted to ask, we can get answers to you.
I don't know. Is anyone concerned about?
So what you're saying is that basically the bottom 8, we don't really have much choice about.
No, the bottom 8 come from TASB with their recommendation.
But they're just recommendations.
And, well, if we don't do them, we're going to have to do something different because they're of the opinion, with the exception of DLB, that they're necessary to keep our local policy in compliance with the requirements that were created by this legislative session.
So it's highly recommended that we
Yes, highly.
do those. And the top part are the ones that staff is recommending the changes for.
Staff is recommending all of them. And staff
But they're not under Update 41.
No, they're not on update. They're ones that were created by the staff.
I would suggest that we plan to proceed with it this month, and if for some reason the board's concerned about adequate time to review it, we can decide next week to delay it. So let's keep it on track and continue to move ahead with it.
Mr. Mayor, I do have one comment / question. I have not seen a revised agenda for the retreat, but it might be helpful, given there are quite a number of changes, just to do a refresh on the significant changes since we have last had a clean copy, subject to any votes on these. Does that make sense?
Like a little thumbnail
Yes.
on each of them? Sure.
Yes.
I think that would be helpful. But as you've explained to me, these rules and regulations these policies are in massive notebooks,
They are.
a tremendous amount of information, and I don't think the board wants to get in the weeds on that. But I think when we're making changes, it would be helpful to have idea of what's really impactful that we have some discretion over at the local level.
Okay, we can certainly do that.
Good. Any other comments?
We'll be beginning those before Thursday.
Yes, we can make that happen.
Thank you.
If you could send that out, email that out to us, that
I'll be glad to.
Sooner the better, I think. Thanks, Carol. Anything else? All right, let's move on to item 5G. Ms. Bracken's also going to handle this. Consideration and approval of access easement and right-of-way on the Tarrant County College-owned property northeast of the intersection of Trinity River and North Main to Encore Electric Service Company.
If you would look in your books under tab 5G on the very last page, you'll see there's a colored drawing, and I think that'll make this easier for you to follow. You see there's a green swath and a blue swath and a yellow swath. Those are all existing easements over on Panther Island owned by Encore. They're used for they have a large substation there, and they have two large sets of transmission lines. Then if you will look down towards the bottom, you'll see a little red triangle. That's the easement area that we're talking about with regard to this Encore easement. Encore has approached the district and requested that we give them an additional easement for this little triangular area, which is about 966 square feet, solely for the purpose of providing access to these other three easements. They've explained it to us that it helps them to maneuver the equipment, the large equipment they use to service these areas, particularly the transmission lines, and gives them a turnaround area. There's been a question raised about, does this impact our property? And the answer, frankly, is no. It's hard to tell from here, but we're right down on the river, which is all part of the Army Corps of Engineers flood control area. And our ability to use that portion of our property is extremely limited. So that was why, in the spirit of partnership with Encore, with whom we've had a very good relationship for many years, the district agreed to that request. And also I would point out that the easement is only for access to the existing easements. It's for no other purpose. And when these other easements go away, if they ever do, this easement automatically dies as well.
So is this butt right up to the levee or to the river?
No, but it's within the flood control area. The levee area is probably 40 feet. Oh, the actual levee structure is probably 40 feet over, because they would not, the Army Corps of Engineers wouldn't let you put machinery on that for any purpose.
Okay, and this is all east of North Main?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Any questions about this easement? So there's no compensation to the college, but
No.
we really are not damaged, for lack of a
No.
better term, or impacted significantly. All right. Any question? Okay, thank you. Item 5H, consideration and approval of collection agency services, indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity, vendor pool for an initial term of 2 years with an option to renew for an additional 2 years. Ms. Ionization?
Yeah, so this is a routine renewal process for our collection agency agreements. We keep two on the team, and work is allocated between them. And then in the event there are accounts that they have not settled by the end of that period, then we send them to the other vendor as well. I will note that this year, with the work that we're doing with the HERF funds to provide debt relief to students, the demand and use of this contract is likely to be less than this level this year because there will be fewer accounts that are sent to collection. However, we need to have the contracts in place as needed.
So this is collecting what types of debts?
So tuition and fee payments from students that have remained unpaid.
Okay. And this is just continuation of the way we've been operating?
Yes.
Good. Any questions? Okay, we'll move on. Thank you. Item 5I, consideration and approval of purchases of promotional items from Consolidus LLC and Mulholland Custom Imprints for an initial 2-year term with an option to renew for 3 additional years.
So you can imagine as a college, we do purchase quite a few promotional items for purposes of recruiting students, as well as hosting events like student orientation and also marketing various programs that are out there. Historically, these have been done as much smaller engagements, largely managed by the campuses as part of our one college goal. We looked at the amount of dollars that were being expended and determined that there was a much more efficient way of going about this. And so we had a committee that was assembled to work on this and to put out an RFP for these services, and have identified 2 firms that will provide that. They'll also have an MWBE component, which is a good thing, but it will aggregate it to fewer contracts, which will be much more effective for us to administer, as well as to ensure the quality of the products, as well as the compliance with our marketing and logo standards and those kinds of things.
And I assume this $1 million is not really an increase over what has been being spent in this area?
That's about what we've been spending in the past. That's how we established that level.
Okay. And let me ask, maybe this is a dumb question, but I know a lot of colleges and universities have licensing agreements about their logos and things like that. Do we have anything like that?
So, no. I'm looking at Carol. Yeah. It is trademarked, yes, where other people can't use our logo, but we don't license it out to other, is what I'm gathering from Carol, to use for their own purposes.
Okay. I know of one big university here in Texas that makes an enormous amount of money doing that. Multiple universities, one in particular, leads everybody else in the country, I think. All right, you get the next 3 items. 5J, consideration and approval of amendment to service agreements with Tubbesing Services LLC for district-wide uninterruptible power supply monitoring and maintenance program.
Yeah,
And
so this is, I apologize.
Go ahead, go ahead.
So this is a contract that's already in place that the board had approved. As we've continued to refine our inventory of systems, as well as plan for systems that will be added with the bond program, it was determined that we had contracted for an inadequate level of support and service for those. And so we're adding to that existing contract to ensure that we've got adequate coverage.
How much is that existing contract?
The existing contract is $439,000, and we're adding $111,000 to it.
Okay. Any questions? All right. 5K, consideration and approval of contract with Infinity Contractors International to purchase and installation of bipolar ionization equipment district-wide.
Yeah, so we've had an effort underway since the beginning of COVID to address air quality. As you can imagine, our ventilation systems across the college are of varying age and quality, and so we've been assessing that and using HERF funds for purposes of providing those upgrades, not only for COVID, but for other air quality issues. And so this continues that effort based on the evaluation that they've done on systems that we can make additional improvements to. We are using the federal funds for this purpose.
Yeah. Any questions? Okay, we'll move to the consideration and approval of rental rates for district pool facilities for the academic year 2021-22 of $75 an hour, 3-hour minimum for public and nonprofit licensees, and $500 per 4-hour event for all others.
Yes, so board policy does require rental and facility usage fees to be approved by the board, and we're in the process of ensuring that we are in compliance with that. In addition, as we took a break during COVID, we obviously didn't have a lot of partnerships for our pools, and it's been important for us to, as we restored those relationships, particularly with school districts and swim teams and so on, for their usage to ensure that we have a consistent fee that we charge, as well as a consistent contract that we apply to all of them with expectations about what their responsibilities are to ensure that their participants are safe. And so we have done a review of pool rates, and we are still a very good deal for those partners. Obviously, the public school districts are a priority for us in terms of providing places for them to swim. We've identified a 3-year trajectory of where we think that we need to be in terms of being near market, yet still that good deal. And so far, as we've worked with the different pool operators, pool users, we have successfully completed those contracts, so we think that they're satisfied with these rates.
Well, I understand this has been somewhat controversial, and the Chancellor wanted us to spend about 3 hours discussing it today, so.
Not to
I'm
contradict
joking.
my boss, but.
I'm joking. Okay, any questions? Item 5M, consideration and approval of, I'm sorry.
I just have one quick question.
Sure.
How are we ensuring that whole facility? I'm just curious because I'm sure that we have some type of insurance because people are using our pools. I'm just curious how that's insured.
Yeah, so they actually are required to provide insurance to cover any accidents that happen or incidents that happen under their purview. And so there's very strict standards around that. I believe the coverage is around $2 million. And so, again, for them to be responsible during the time that they're using the pools.
How are we protected? How is the college protected?
So that insurance protects us,
Yeah,
that they.
But beyond that, do we have statutory?
Yeah.
We have our own insurance and we have some, okay.
That's right. And the other thing I'll add is that one of the efforts that we went through as we updated the contract and made sure they were consistent is that we've got waivers that are required of every single participant, acknowledging that the operator or the user of that pool and the operator of that program is responsible for their safety, and also it's got standards around lifeguard coverage and that kind of thing. And so we've really standardized how we're managing that to make sure that we're providing a safe environment as well.
Good. Does that answer your question? It's a good question. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, we'll move on to item 5M, consideration and approval of resolution and participation agreement to authorize Tarrant County College District participation in the Keller Tax Increment Reinvestment Zone Number 2 and appointment of representative.
And before I turn this over to the representative of the City of Keller, I wanted to just mention for the benefit of the new board members, we are participants in, I don't know, probably 25 different TIRZ or tax increment reinvestment zones across the county. And historically, the college has participated at a level of 50%. Those can go on for often 30 years, sometimes longer, depending on the nature of the TIRZ. The purpose is for the various taxing entities, including us, the hospital district, the county, to invest in public infrastructure collectively that's targeted and often partnered with a developer to enhance the quality of the development that's going to go in place. And so essentially the incremental value of that development and the tax received from that development, a portion of it goes towards that purpose, and then half of it comes back to us. And so it's a long-used economic development tool that, again, we think that we benefit from by improving the value and the long-term tax viability of those properties. And so you'll see a number of them come forward. So we've got 2 of them today. We've got a couple more next month that are coming forward with some changes, but I wanted to give you that background. The other thing I'll mention is that before we move on to the next one, Bedford, I'm going to be offering a substitution there. We had a little bit of cut and paste language that carried over the Keller language into the discussion of the next one, that we'll get that corrected for next week's meeting as well. But the representatives of the cities that initiated these will be speaking to each of these projects.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Kirk McDaniel is going to be presenting to us, and we have a handout on this in your packet. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for your time. Oh, perfect. Like Susan said, I'm Kirk McDaniel with Petty and Associates, and we're the economic development consultant for the city of Keller. And so I'm here today. This presentation really is to give you a brief overview of the purpose of the zone, the boundaries of the zone, and the projects that are in it. And so I'll just dive right in. The zone was created this year in 2021, back in March. We initially did a final plan in April of this year, and then we actually had an amended and restated plan in July of this year, and I'll explain why we went from a final plan to an amended and restated fairly recently afterwards, but I'll explain that a little bit later in the presentation. As far as the zone itself, it's built over the 377 corridor within Keller, but it's just under 800 acres. And it really is focused specifically on Old Town Keller and redeveloping that area. And so we looked at the vacant acreage that's within Keller, the city of Keller, and within that corridor, as well as where we knew development was coming, and we crafted the boundary to fit right there as it is. And so in conjunction with that, the city was also working on their 2021 future land use map. This is actually the first future land use map that the city of Keller approved since 1998, I believe. So it's been a long time coming. But if you look at the boundaries of the zone and compare it to this future land use map, you can tell that the uses that we're covering are really commercial uses. And so that's really the purpose of the TERS, is to help benefit the development and redevelopment of that corridor. So I covered that there. We looked at the incremental value. So the base value of the zone as it is today is about $174 million. From that, it generates taxable revenue that goes to the college district. The TERS is specifically only for the new value that gets generated on top of that. So for those purposes, we looked at the acreage that was vacant or underutilized within the zone, and using only that acreage, we put together a site plan based on those new land uses to look at the new value that we anticipated would come online over the next 30 years, which is the term of the zone. We tried to be very conservative with this, so we included a 15-year build-out, very, very slow. We include 2 years of no growth each decade to simulate economic downturns and events like COVID that could disrupt those tax value increases. And even with all of that, there's still a significant amount of new increment, or new value that we believe will come online over the next 3 decades. And so this next slide is just our underlying assumptions when we put that feasibility study together. So the city is contributing at 50%, which is about $25 million over that 30-year term. The county has approved a participation agreement with the city, and so they are participating also at 50%, and that's about $14.9 million over the term of the zone. And then the request of the college district is that you would also participate at 50% up to that $8.3 million cap. As I said, the base value is $176 million. As far as the actual new development we would see coming online, it's about $385 million. But that gets added on to the value increases that just typically occur with property as property values increase to get to that, to the greater values. And so this is a slide that kind of illustrates what Susan had expertly described earlier. The green bar at the bottom is the base revenue. That's the revenue that is coming to the college district off that $176 million base value. So that would continue to go to the college district just as it is today. It's only the new value that would get split, and the requested split would be 50%. So the yellow bar would go to the TERS fund, and the blue bar would go back to the college district. And then at the end of the term of the zone, all of that revenue would go to the college district. So the TERS would end, and you would retain that increment. So then this is the last slide that I have, and within the project and finance plan for the TERS, we identified a significant amount of public improvements, and we did something that is a little bit atypical to most TERSs, and this is actually what led to the amended and restated plan. So we had the city staff had put together a very strong project and finance plan with a significant amount of public improvements, And whenever we presented that to the county looked at it and they approved of the vast majority of our projects, but there were a few that they didn't want to contribute their increment towards. And the reason for that is because they really wanted to focus on specific infrastructure improvements, roads, water, sewer, items that when you put in the ground is really going to bring up the values and make the entire area increase in its taxable value. And so what we ended up doing is we understood their concerns and we took them under advisement and we went back and amended the plan to split the projects into two different categories. So there's the Tier 1 projects, as you can see on here. These are those pure infrastructure projects, and the county's increment would go towards supporting those projects. But we left in there, and we called it Tier 2 projects, and there's just a few of them, but additional projects that if the city wanted to, they could use their increment that is going into the TERS fund to fund those specific projects. And so the assumption that we made in discussions with staff here is that the college district would follow the county's lead and also only fund those core infrastructure projects. Does anyone have any questions on that specifically?
So essentially, you're saying the college would not participate in Tier 2 projects?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I am correct that all of this money will be spent on public improvements. It's not going to be spent on any one company or individual's property.
Yes, sir. It is specifically for public improvements.
It's basically to facilitate the development of private investment.
It's to facilitate the investment in the zone. So when new development comes in, there's always going to be public improvements required to bring that full value and realize that full value. And so this is to help fund those improvements. So always public improvements. Yes, sir.
All right. Anyone have any questions about this? And we do have, the staff recommendation is to approve this. And it's capped, our participation's capped at
$8.3 million.
$8.3 million.
Yes, sir.
And this is in keeping with past practices. I like things like this. I think I've seen, certainly from the Fort Worth perspective, I've seen how this kind of funding really can facilitate literally billions of dollars worth of investment. So I think this is a good program.
Let me be clear, I'm not sure if we've ever broken Tier 1, Tier 2. I don't recall that. I just want to clear up what my response is as it relates to we've done this before. What is consistent is following the lead of the county, basically, in the 50% and what we are including in the TERS itself.
Good. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. McDaniel? You've done a nice job of explaining it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Okay. We'll move on to item 5N, consideration and approval of resolution and participation agreement to authorize TCC to participate in the Bedford, Texas, Bedford tax increment refinance zone number 1.
David Pettit is joining us remotely. So,
oh, okay.
Yes, so.
Mr. Pettit.
Yes, Vice President and Board of Trustees, thank you very much for allowing me to present virtually. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to try to share my PowerPoint, which is new for me here. So can y'all see the major slide, or are you seeing the two slides here?
We are seeing what looks like a Zoom desktop or something, I think.
Let me swap this.
How
about that one?
That's people on the call.
Can you see my PowerPoint?
No. Not yet. We have a copy of it if you want to go.
Oh, okay. I'll just go through it if that's okay. But let's just do that. And thank you very much. I hear you like really long presentations, so this is just about 80 slides. So no, I think Mr. McDaniel did a very good job on TIFs in general, and I think Susan did a very good intro on how TIFs can really kind of facilitate new investment. TERS number 1, this is the first TERS for the city of Bedford, It's 57 acres of 10 non-contiguous, what we call area development zones, located within the city limits of City of Bedford. It's the land within the zone is improved with either commercial buildings or vacant land that's well positioned for new development. The main focus is within ADZ1, which is all city owned, which includes various public buildings, including the City of Bedford Municipal Complex. And so the purpose of this is to encourage private development that will yield additional tax revenue to all the taxing jurisdictions. As you can see, this is a non-contiguous area, and a lot of people have asked, why are we doing a non-contiguous area? We need these other areas, and they're kind of primed for development to kind of facilitate the investment that has been desperately needed, and the city's been working for 15 years trying to get investment in this ADZ1. I can tell you that the ADZ1 is 75% of the overall land area. Also, the tax value, the base tax value of all these properties, it's not like the previous presentation that you saw. We're talking about $9 million as the base. So we're looking at all this being new development that's coming online. So the statute allows for non-contiguous boundaries for the creation of the amendment of creation or amendment of a TER zone. So we worked very hard with staff to identify those 10 parcels or 10 zones that would increase taxable value. So vacant parcels that could accommodate new development were identified, parcels with opportunities for redevelopment, and parcels that are tax exempt that could become taxable. So a lot of city land is included in this TIF. It's kind of hard to kind of do this in a crystal ball, so what we ended up doing was hiring a planning firm, Good Fulton and Farrell, GFF, architects and planners, and looked at the area which is Bedford Commons, commonly known as Bedford Commons. It's approximately 30 acres of mostly vacant land with easy access to the roadway and infrastructure. If you look at this from 183, it's just literally one block in. It's strategically located to single-family residential and the existing trail system. So the plan we came up with, if you followed Bedford politics, there's been a lot of discussion about, do we want apartments? Do we want a place for people to gather? And the real takeaway from the planning process was we wanted a focal place, a place that people could gather, and then also a place where people could live. This is one of the few places of infill development in the entire Mid-Cities area that will provide this opportunity. So what we have is, as you can see in this picture here, kind of I'll show you some picture renderings of what it looks like, but it's commercial development with a focus on people gathering, and also what really drives the increment is 184 townhomes that are priced at a higher price point, so that accommodates some of the goals that the city is wanting to accomplish. So what we have is really some restaurant spillover space, sheltered pavilions. We spent a lot of time discussing this and talked about kind of outside Press Cafe, if you kind of think of that. If you've been to Florida and you've seen the hub where people gather, it's a people gathering place. And so as we looked at this, this is what the council focused in on, and we've also have had several discussions with developers to basically say that they have bought into the support of it. And so really all of these new townhomes, and this is much smaller, this is 50 or 30 acres, that can accommodate both this central gathering place that the city so desperately needs, and also new housing that is in quite demand right now. So the overall development, if you want to look at the $108 million worth of new development in today's dollars, about 75% of that is in that ADZ1. Everything else is pretty de minimis as far as, but it helps seed the funding that's kind of coming into the overall TERS to help ADZ1. So we have a 30-year TERS that has been set up. The city of Bedford is putting 75% of their tax rate into the TIF. Tarrant County has agreed to 50% with a cap up to 4.6, and we're proposing Tarrant County College at 50% with a cap up to 2.6. As you can see, the total project over that 30-year period produces $146 million. We're putting $24 million into it for public infrastructure and public benefits. And so the net benefit from this is $122 million. So really, this is truly a project that if we didn't put a TIF in place, we're taking tax-exempt land and making it taxable. And this is kind of an outline of the overall proposed uses, and we're working with the developers. Have Andrea Roy on the line as well with the city's economic development, and we are happy to answer any questions if y'all have any.
What are the economic development grants that are listed here on the proposed
Yes, sir.
project cost?
So those are grants that are afforded under Chapter 311 of the statute. Only the city can participate in economic development grants. So none of these county or the college's money would be used for economic development grants. But this gets into the case that because this area is infill, there might be situations to where we can't pay for public infrastructure, but the project still needs some stimulus. So it's it's essentially a Chapter 380 grant that is, the city has the ability within the TERS, but the county and Tarrant County College legally cannot participate in that.
Okay. Questions?
This is maybe more of a comment. I appreciate on your revenue summary slide how you've indicated that though the hospital district and the school district are not investing in the TIF, that there is a net benefit.
That is true, and that is one of the reasons for doing that, because this is, majority of it is tax exempt land. And I can also tell you, since putting this TIF in place, the value's actually gone negative. So we really need to have a catalyst project to pull these properties positive, because as I mentioned, they were $9 million aggregate of what the base value is. And so that's actually dipped down a couple $100,000. So this is going to be a win-win for all the taxing jurisdictions.
I wonder if there is a way that the Keller TERS could also include that type of economic impact?
To the broader taxing entities?
Yes.
Okay. We can put that through.
Thank you.
Okay, David, anything else you want to say?
No, sir. As I mentioned, Andrea Roy and is available if you have any questions of the city.
Anyone have additional questions? All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Both of these
Thank you.
Good presentations. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item 5O, consideration and approval of a contract with Terracon Consultants, Inc. for the Northwest Campus Redevelopment Project Special Inspection and Materials Testing Services. Ms. Ionization.
So throughout the life of a construction project, there's requirements for us to do materials testing. It can be concrete, it can be steel, it can be a variety of things in order to ensure that the quality of the construction meets our expectations, as well as standards that are set by governing agencies about the quality of those facilities. And so in the past, I think most of these services have been achieved on a project-by-project basis at a smaller level because of the scale of the Northwest project, we did a request for proposals to serve that need for the duration of that project and get somebody in place to provide to do that work for us. So that's what this reflects, and it's part of the bond program budget as previously presented.
Okay. Any questions on this? I see none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the report of the Chancellor and briefings.
Thank you, Mr. Barr. On briefings and information, the first one speaks to the monthly bond program update, and that is for informational purposes. There's no presentation today. However, Susan as well as O'Connor are available for any questions that you may have on that, either now or in the future here. The 6B is a briefing on intelligent buildings, and that will be a presentation given by Andy Schoenberger. Andy virtually. So Andy, are you with us?
I am. Good afternoon to everyone.
Good afternoon.
I have got a PowerPoint ready to go myself, and we did a dry run of this yesterday, so I will click the button here and just ask you to confirm that we are up and running.
We can see.
All right, excellent. So thank you everyone for your time. The intention of this briefing is for my colleague Usman Salim and myself to review the work that has gone into the Smart Campus Master Plan around technology and capabilities, look at some of the outputs and focus areas that were worked through with the real estate and facilities folks and other stakeholders, to talk about a technical aspect that we were challenged with at the beginning of the scope of work, and to talk about how to roll this out in terms of pilots and integration with many of the technology initiatives going on through the bond program and other efforts by real estate and facilities. So myself, I'm Andy Schomberger. I lead our client services team, and Usman Salim has been the technical resource throughout our delivery. So why don't we dive right in here? One thing that we do with our clients when we're talking about technology strategies and how it impacts real estate facilities and users of those facilities is not dive straight into technology. We find that is a challenge and usually results in value engineering or missed goals or missed opportunities or extra costs as a result of technology. So we always start with aligning with our clients' business needs. And in that case, for Tarrant County College and District, that means looking at the actual goals, the one college principles, being a student-ready college, serving the community, and using those as our inputs and guides for when we have technology discussions, as opposed to going with what some in the engineering community and my peers, we get excited with a particular technology and go looking for a problem to solve instead of, looking at the challenges and the business priorities and then looking at what solutions can address them. So the idea here is that master plan you can see is built on the foundation of the Tarrant County vision. And we're looking at solving problems inside those goals. So the way we do that is, like I said, make sure we are understanding, and we're definitely at that point now of all of those goals about experience and operational efficiency and risk reduction and security, and use those to frame the focus areas, and then map the focus areas into particular technologies and technical details. And then look at, reasonable business planning as to how do we implement this, and how do you have it operate through, a full life cycle. And you can see that you start from business, plain English on the left, and you get into more technical details as you on the right, and operational procedures and, playbooks and those sorts of things to regular run of business. Technology is just part of your day-to-day. So there's lots of elements under each one of these, but this is the process that we've gone through with the real estate and facilities team to build out a plan that can be actionable through the bond program and on the campus as a whole. So I'll pass to Usman here because he did do a majority of the work here on the technical details to go through the areas of focus, and I will comment and add color if necessary. Usman?
Thank you, Andy. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we're fine.
Thank you for having us present the master plan to you all. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to focus on some of the key areas of this master plan where we built out where we built out the goals and objectives and then worked our way down to technologies and capabilities that help us achieve those goals and objectives. And our focus was really on 5 areas. The first one was an engineering facilities dashboard that consolidated information, consolidated data from different systems that real estate and facilities use, and combined that data onto a single platform that allows real estate and facilities to have more visibility into building operations and make quicker decisions when it comes to challenges and issues as and when they happen. The other 4 areas that we're going to cover after this are energy, wayfinding, space utilization, and security. So for the facilities dashboard, the capability that we worked on was to take different systems, their user interfaces, their data that's being collected by sensors, by equipment that's installed in the field, in buildings, and then really collapsing it onto a single platform. And what this allows the real estate team to do is, firstly, it allows them to see everything on a single pane of glass. It allows them to highlight the data points that are useful to them. And the other aspect of this capability is that any sort of alarming notification, incidents that require immediate attention are all centralized, and that really allows real estate and facilities to respond better to changes as and when they're happening. In the next slide, another focus area was energy. And reducing energy is not just a cost reduction, but it's also something that is important to reduce the carbon footprint. And what we've tried to do with the capabilities around energy reduction is to give real estate and facilities more visibility into how equipment operation and energy usage is affected by changes that happen in the space. So once this data is available to real estate and facilities, they're able to contextualize how operating an equipment a certain way affects energy usage and what the changes are in energy usage when different parameters are changed on the field. This in turn allows them to make equipment run as efficient as possible, and then really stay ahead of the curve when there's a piece of equipment or there's a building that is using more energy than is expected. So the visibility into energy usage really allows them to operate the building better and in turn reduce energy. In the next slide, one key focus area of the master plan is a pain point that we identified in our discovery process with Tarrant County and the different stakeholders and the different occupants, is how to find spaces on campus, whether that's a building, whether that's a room inside a building. One of the key complaints of administrative staff, of students, of faculty, was that they had trouble finding where they were going. And so wayfinding is really an initiative that allows occupants of the building to know where they're going and to have turn-by-turn directions to where they're going to the particular space that they want to end up into. So this includes both wayfinding within the campus to go to a particular building, but it doesn't stop there. It also includes indoor mapping, whether that's on a mobile device, or whether that's physical or digital signage that guides people to where they want to go. The next focus area that we had was space utilization. And Andy, that's on the next slide. So with space utilization, this is an important area for Tarrant County and an educational institution in general, is how is this space being used? How are classrooms being used? How are common areas, meeting spaces, focus areas being used? And so the capabilities that we have included in the master plan around this focus area are to do with flexible space reservation and how to and giving control to the occupants on some of the space conditions, whether that's lighting, heating, ventilation. And this capability works on collecting data from sensors in the space, such as wayfinding beacons, occupancy sensors, people counting sensors, and space reservation tools that are used so that occupants can have the ability to book their spaces and have that flexibility to know what the right time is and what the time limits are to book that space. For Tarrant County, as an administrative, for the administrative staff of Tarrant County, this helps them understand how the space is being utilized, and it also informs them how to design that space better when it's time to change the outlay of different spaces. And last but not least, one of the main focus areas that really encompasses every capability is around increasing and making the security of the building, the occupants, more robust. And this is both physical security and cyber security. And some of the capabilities in this area are to do with having secure remote access to the platforms and systems that real estate and facilities needs to have access to, whether that's on campus or whether that's remotely logging in to check parameters, to make changes, so on and so forth. And in terms of the physical security, the capabilities that we have detailed on include deploying sensors that ensure not only the physical well-being of occupants, but also the health well-being of occupants through deploying sensors such as air quality sensors and sensors that improve physical security like gunshot detection. Moving on to the next slide. So these were the five areas of the master plan. Another topic that we want to discuss, and this was a key component of our engagement, was to investigate the use and deployment of PoE, or Power over Ethernet. And this is a technology that Tarrant County has deployed already, has taken the initiative to deploy in some areas. Some of the sensors that are existing right now in Tarrant County buildings use this technology. And for those of you who aren't familiar, Power over Ethernet uses the IT infrastructure, the Ethernet infrastructure, to not just provide connectivity, but also power to devices. So there are some immediate benefits of this technology, being that it's easily scalable in that different devices can connect to the network without and be powered without the need for installing electrical wiring, cabling, that sort. And it avoids the need for battery-powered devices, so that devices don't just go out of power, and there isn't that monitoring that's needed to check battery levels, so on and so forth. And then the cost savings in deploying this technology are primarily around the elimination of labor that's involved in installing wiring, power, and cabling. Now, some of the change impacts of this technology and are needed for any organization of any size is that there needs to be a detailed plan, because the existing devices that you see on this slide, like the camera system, access control, any sort of sensors, lighting, they have conventionally not used the Ethernet backbone for power. They usually are powered just through electrical wiring in the traditional way. And so there's a big change in terms of how these devices then operate and how they're maintained. And in order for an organization to support this technology, there needs to be the proper coordination between different organizations within, such as IT, such as real estate and facilities. And then obviously there are going to be procurement impacts as well with respect to getting devices that are compatible with Power over Ethernet. So as we investigated this technology, what we recommended to Tarrant County with respect to the existing bond projects, the major bond projects, is that we do not recommend deploying these systems on a large scale for the current major bond projects. We feel that the design changes and the processes to operate this technology are not there right now. And the benefits that we discussed in the previous slide, they won't be realized without these operating processes and without the change management plan. And it will dissuade implementation of this technology in the long term. And so at this point in time, we feel that there are certain precursors that need to be focused on. And Power over Ethernet is a technology that has huge potential, and that has a role to play in future technology deployment at TCC. But at the present time, we feel that this technology should be, there's a few precursors. And in the recommendations that you see here, the first recommendation, couple of recommendations that we have here is that TCC needs to develop the workflows, a change management plan, and the operating models so that they're able to deploy this technology and operate equipment using this technology. And the good news is that as Tarrant County has already deployed this technology in some capacity, there are existing processes to build on. And so that way, these existing experiences can be used to develop these workflows and these processes to deploy this technology and benefit from the advantages that it has in the future. Some other recommendations are always when we always recommend to pilot technologies that are new or that are being deployed at scale in a small controlled environment at a small scale, and then expand that as time goes on. And that's what we would recommend for deployment of devices that use PoE in the future. And some other considerations here really that are around piloting this technology are mentioned here, that give real estate and facilities easy access to where the technology is deployed so that they are able to closely monitor it, learn from it, and in the future, as this is scaled out to systems that span the campus, they're better able to operate it, and they're better knowledgeable about the changes that are needed to operate it. Moving on to the next slide, here we've summarized some of the use cases or capabilities that we discussed before into the different focus areas. Overall, we feel that deploying technologies around wayfinding, space utilization, technologies that improve security, the overall effect of these will be that the user experience of occupants in the buildings will increase, will be improved. There will be an improvement in efficiency of the staff, including real estate and facilities, and the administrative staff, and their responsiveness to issues in buildings. There will be a decrease in operating costs, given that there is a focus on reducing energy usage and making operations as a whole more efficient. And just having data to make decisions will enable the real estate facility staff to really back up some of the decisions that they're making with credible data that's coming out from equipment and sensors out in the field. And what we've done in the master plan is that we have given immediate guidance on immediate steps that need to be taken for implementation. Some of the steps are mentioned here, that there needs to be a development of technical requirements around some of these technologies. There needs to be a plan to pilot technologies, procure them, and then operate them under a new operating model. And all of these have been covered in the master plan document. And finally, the last topic that I wanted to cover is just around how to implement a technology at scale. And what we've proposed in the master plan is a pilot implementation path that takes a technology and we've included a plan to deploy it at small scale, install it, and then evaluate the results over a period of time, and then transition it to operations and then scale from there. So what this allows TCC to do is that it allows them to perfect the process around the technology, and then as it expands to and it has a wider footprint in campus, it's easier to operate, and you're able to build on the experiences of the pilot. So we recommend this 6-stage process around deploying technology, where there's a preparation process, design, installation, evaluation, and then transition over to operations, so that the technology deployment and change that comes with technology is as smooth as possible. And I think, Andy, that's it from us. Any questions, we'd be happy to take.
Yeah, thanks, Usman. Just to put a little cap on the end here. Sorry, my mic was jumping on and off there for a second. To put a little cap on this, you can see how we've gone from, the business angle and what problems are we solving and pain points, right through to some, quite technical jargon, if you will. But I think the important part to note is that through this master plan, we've gone through the journey with real estate and facilities and extended stakeholders to go through that and get alignment on prioritization, to look at how to roll some of these things out, looked at existing technology infrastructure and strengths and pilot projects. And we've done, I'd say, a lot of effort for alignment to show the good things that, the team in general is doing on the campus, and looking at how to apply and really look at, I'd say, some of the, I don't say table stakes, but some of the successes in industry that Tarrant County can also leverage, and with proven solutions, and I'd say fairly low risk in terms of the implementation of some of these technologies to the benefit of every stakeholder on campus. So trying to put a little bit of a cap on it there, but you can see, I hope, through our presentation here, that whole continuum. And happy to take questions and continue the conversation as needed here.
Okay, thank you. Let me ask you, can you expand just a little bit on the reference to change management framework? In lay terms, what are you talking about?
Yeah, so in general, the challenge we see a lot with technology is that it's new. And sometimes there are new capabilities required of staff, of planning personnel, of the consulting ecosystem, of your vendors. And you need to define in advance who is going to be doing what does success look like? How will you address challenges? You don't want to have finger pointing because of some new technology and no one's sure how to address a particular concern. I can tell you that in a former life of mine, we did deploy some of the POE lights at scale. And one of the first things that happened when there was an issue was the tenants filled out a work order and called the landlord. And the landlord came into the space and said, I don't even know what this is. The electrician didn't know what to do with it because it was a power Ethernet light. So he just left and the light didn't work. So no one knew how to fix it because it was a different workflow. They didn't know that they needed to call the lighting vendor and have their IT technician troubleshoot connectivity of the light. So you can see that the technology is a little bit different. So you have to make sure you've looked at who is going to do what, given that it needs to be operated slightly differently to get at the technology benefits that are promised through its adoption, at the beginning when the design and the selection is happening. So it doesn't mean that all of these technologies need to upend how real estate facilities runs the buildings. That's not the case here. So that's why we've made some of the recommendations we've had. But there are some opportunities to improve or add, I'd say, strengths in terms of how some of these solutions are running. So one of the one of the capabilities we talked about, and if I scroll back here for you, the facilities dashboard. One of the things that's commonly done, I would say now with a lot of these tools, is to run an analytics engine that looks at the multiple systems data coming in and makes recommendations of what to fix. And in some cases, they'll do that before something is necessarily showing as being broken. So now what do you do with that information? Maybe you automate a work order. Now either a vendor or someone in real estate and facilities is now responding to it. That's a different workflow. So when you go through some of these solutions, you just want to make sure that every stakeholder, maybe it's a student who could report an issue, maybe it's a faculty member, and how does that impact real estate and facilities or any other stakeholder with these new tools? And so you just want to make sure there's education and awareness about the possibilities or how those things will change when you start the adoption of these focus areas.
I think the process, and I sit here with three of my board colleagues today who are relatively new to the board and were not here months ago when we were discussing some of these issues related to power over Ethernet and so on. The thing that led us to want to engage Intelligent Buildings to help us was a concern about whether we were building state-of-the-art buildings that were going to serve the college for the next 50 years, or if we were building buildings that were just the same buildings that might have been built 25 or 30 years ago. And what I hear you saying is we're not ready to move quite as fast as some of us on the board may have been urging. Is that a fair statement?
I don't know if I'd characterize it exactly like that. I would say that because you've done this diligence at this point in the rollout, there is opportunity to adopt some of these focus areas. It is not too late. We did recommend, you could tell on that very tactical question of should we use power over Ethernet at scale, we did recommend some caution so as to not, I'd say, upset the apple cart in a bunch of the design and deployment process. But there is still time to do these sorts of things. So are you designing, obsolete buildings now? No. Do you have good systems? Yes. Is the team already deploying elements of these solutions? Yes. There is also an opportunity, I think, through purpose and going through some of the piloting and requirement setting that Usman overviewed to accelerate the adoption. So it's not quite as black and white as you said through that summary, but I do think there's still plenty of time and opportunity to get a good return on some course correcting, if you will, and some additional features additions.
Okay. Do any of y'all have questions, comments? So we have your final report, is that correct?
Yes, you do.
Susan?
So it is their final report for now. I think our commitment to you all was that we would provide it to you as a draft, and if you had any comments or questions to provide back to us that you would like us to add to or amend, we'd be happy to do that. I think if any of you spent any time with it, you can see it's highly technical and very voluminous. And so we try to guide your attention to the problems we're trying to solve that were gathered through a lot of stakeholder input. But I think that would be an area that we would that you may want to spend a little bit of time with and think about if you think we hit the marks on that. What Okong and I are working on now is with Intelligent Buildings to understand what a subsequent scope of work beyond the planning piece of it, what's next, and what are the very specific deliverables. It can feel very overwhelming when you get a report like this about where do you start. And as we've talked about before, we've got lots of existing buildings and an ecosystem we have to operate in, and we're building new. So how do we wrap our arms around that? And so we anticipate that we will come back to you with a request to continue the engagement of intelligent buildings, but we need to firm up what that scope of work might look like and how it integrates with everything else that we have going on. But our intent is to do that very soon. But we would welcome any feedback. What we will do once we believe you're satisfied with the content of the report is that we will transmit it with an informational memo so that it can become part of the permanent records in terms of what that final report looked like.
So will we get a copy of the report, or?
Yes, it was emailed to you last week, I believe. I'm looking at, where's Reg? Yeah. So, but you've got time. I mean, there's not any rush at this point for you to spend some time with it.
Excuse my ignorance.
Oh, that's
but
okay. That's okay.
I'm about 2 weeks behind on
Well, and we've
emails,
sent you a
so-
mountain of stuff in the last week, so we understand.
And after I got this notebook for today's meeting, I haven't read it very well either, so,
Yeah.
Okay. Shannon?
This might seem like an odd question, but is there a way to get like a video of us seeing what this is going to look like? I'm trying to think of the exact word, where you can show maybe like in cartoon form how these rooms are going to look and how they're going to be implemented. Is there anything like that? I don't know if you have anything like that.
Well, so what I would say is it's more systemic than that in terms of the systems that are in place to operate facilities. And you walk into smart buildings all the time today, where in a lot of our buildings, you walk in and the lights turn on and the lights turn off and so on. We can work with the team to see if there's something that is in layperson's terms that we can provide that might answer those questions. But we'll see what we can do.
Okay.
Dee? I would just emphasize my interest in this, and I think the other board members' interest in this, is to make sure that Tarrant County College is building durable buildings that are state-of-the-art, and 50 years from now, people will say, boy, they did a good job, not, boy, they missed the boat. And we don't want to waste a lot of money by doing things that are on the bleeding edge of technology. That can be very expensive, but we're comfortable being on the cutting edge of technology and being innovative. And I will say, even being there, sometimes there are miscues, and you start down a road, and it turns out that might not have been the correct road, and you have to make some adjustments. But I think the board's willing to run that risk in order to make sure that we're getting very, very good buildings that will serve our students and our faculty and our staff very well. So I will do my homework, and if there are no other questions, thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate you taking time to be with us this afternoon. Look forward to continuing to work in this area. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you to the staff and to the board. Thank you for the opportunity. Look forward to continuing this.
Thank you, guys. So
Thank you very much.
The next briefing is on a faculty hiring presentation. It is a presentation, and Dr. LeBlanc is here live, and Gloria Maddox-Powell is virtually, I believe, to pinch it or to assist in the presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Giovannini. So that's correct. I will give a brief overview and business case for what we are doing. And Gloria Maddox-Powell, who's our Executive Director for Human Resources, will explain the action items. And Gloria, I believe you're online. Is she ready?
I am, Dr.
Thank you. And so we will, I have support over here to move the slides so you don't have to worry about that, okay? Very good. So thank you for giving us the opportunity to present the Tarrant County College Faculty Recruitment and Retention Plan. In terms of the business case, we want to start by explaining that this is connected to the 3 goals and 8 principles. Well, okay, I'm not doing a very good job. 3 goals and 8 principles. It does speak to the one college approach, which we will be using the same strategies on every campus. It is meant to improve the student experience on every campus. by becoming more reflective of the student body with the goal of integrated student success, which ultimately will serve our community. In terms of the current landscape, we got information from a report that was prepared for the Fort Worth Chamber of Commerce called Workforce Ready Talent, the State of College and Career Readiness in the Fort Worth region. It's another big giant report, but it has a lot of good information. And there we learned that 60% of all U.S. jobs will require some form of post-secondary training. Students need to be ready for the jobs that may not exist yet, but that will be waiting for them when they graduate. And the good news is that we do have a robust college and career readiness ecosystem. We have partnerships. Tarrant County College has done an exceptional job of partnering with the public schools, the businesses in our area, and our service providers. And we use evidence-based strategies to increase readiness. So examples of that would be our dual enrollment, early college, high school, the work that we are doing to address House Bill 5, T3. We also have increased the number of businesses represented in our advisory committees for our technical programs, and our Title V and other grants that have been brought into the college will serve this endeavor as well. So Tarrant County College is aligned with the regional goals. We continue to embrace the strategies mentioned in the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board 60 by 30 Texas Plan. We promote college and career readiness to increase the odds for access and success to college, and we work toward a stronger community where students have access to post-secondary educational pathways. And this is achieved, of course, when we have conversations with the public school partners and university partners, creating crosswalks and articulation agreements with those entities. The foundational principles of college completion is that college includes any training after high school. Some form of college is for everyone. College and career readiness leads to college completion. College completion promotes economic development and economic mobility, and success means success for all. So when we look at success, we always look at student success as it relates to faculty success. We know for a fact that faculty play a primary role in student retention and completion. Research shows similar faculty and student demographics have a positive impact on student retention, student engagement, persistence, and completion. Enrollment trends reflect continued diversification of our student body. Okay, did I skip? Okay. The research shows intentionally designed cultures that reflect the student body lead to student success. It is imperative for institutions to foster a more culturally diverse faculty reflective of today's student body, and an enhanced institutional profile yields positive impacts on recruitment and retention of students, faculty, and staff. When we look at our demographics, and these are demographics for fall of 2021, so they're very recent, we learned that when we look at the faculty is 64.1% white, 15.2% Black African American, 8.7% Hispanic, and 6.2% Asian. So the outer circle is the faculty. The student demographics are 30.8% white, 17.6% African American, 35.5% Hispanic, and 6.7% Asian. So what does that tell us? The percentage of white students was about 33 percent points lower than the percentage of white faculty. The percentage of black African American students was about 2 percent points higher than the percentage of black African American faculty. And the percentage of Hispanic Latino students was about 27 percentage points higher than the percentage of Hispanic Latin faculty. The percentage of Asian students is about right. With the faculty, align with the faculty. So we see a trend of increase in Hispanic students, and of course the state demographers have been sharing that with us for as long as I can remember. So it's now very much a reality. So as we connect the dots, again, I want to stress that at TCC we embrace the strategic direction provided by the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board 60 by 30 Texas Plan, the strategic direction provided by the 3 goals and 8 principles allows us to support a stronger community where all students have access to educational pathways that help them realize career goals, align with the region's workforce needs, and as Dr. Blankenbaker mentioned earlier, we want our students to be world ready, and that is part of what we're trying to work toward. So next will be the faculty recruitment and retention plan, which my colleague Gloria Maddox-Powell will present. You got it?
Thank you, Dr. LeBlanc. You can go to the next slide. Thank you, everybody, for your time this afternoon. So Dr. LeBlanc has already shared what we call our business case for our recruitment and retention plan. And just to kind of summarize that, from an HR perspective, our role in this is to apply those research findings to our hiring strategies. We're going to use the data that Dr. LeBlanc has already shared to really focus on hiring more of our underrepresented demographic faculty. The initial focus, based on the data you've already seen, will be on increasing the number of our Hispanic and Latino faculty. And again, this chart on my slide just really, again, represents what she shared earlier, where you can see the difference in the demographic comparison for students and faculty. What we'll do on our team is to provide training through our professional development office that's going to help our hiring officials and other academic leaders across the college with hiring from this focus. We'll develop also some annual retention strategies to help us retain the new faculty that we hire. We can go to the next slide. So in our effort to align our hiring practices with the one college model, again, that's student ready and serves our community, one of the things that we're going to do, again, is to increase the ability for students to receive a very high quality and meaningful learning experience using the data that we've shown already. And we plan to capture this data annually, and as the data changes, our plan may change. But using the current data, if we go to the next slide, Dr. LeBlanc, our focus and the recruitment and retention strategies this year will be on recruiting additional Hispanic faculty. How are we going to do that from a recruitment perspective? One of the things we're going to do is flood the applicant pool. And that simply means, again, being more aggressive in how we advertise and source our candidates. So we're going to partner with some of our internal and external sources, like Fort Worth ISD. They have a similar strategy to increase teachers in K-12. So we'll partner externally in manners like that. Internally, we're going to look at hiring some of our existing employees who are already qualified educationally to teach. But again, we'll talk about advertising, creating and growing some of our own employees, And due to the pandemic, we'll do some virtual hiring fairs and then participate in external job fairs that are virtual. We're going to also revamp our website so that we highlight this initiative alongside of all of our current postings. And we're also going to advertise in different areas, again, that may target the demographic we're trying to hire. Recruiting current employees, I just said that. We have a whole cadre of employees who are already qualified educationally to teach. We'll explore using some of those employees in our adjunct pool, and then leveraging our existing partnerships. I shared that already. We go to the next slide. Dr. LeBlanc, are you moving it?
No, she is. We got it.
Oh, okay, perfect. It almost looked like 2 slides moved forward. Can you just double check for me if we skip the slide or not?
We did.
Okay, thank you so much. It looked like 2 slides, but anyway, thank you. So again, part of our retention strategies, we just talked about recruitment. So in order to retain the new faculty that we're hiring that are already underrepresented, we're going to create a process so that we have a faculty cohort or community that supports us in retaining those faculty members. We already have a first-year faculty experience program that all new full-time faculty engage in. We're going to add to that curriculum pieces on equity and inclusion in support of the new faculty. We're also going to build learning communities for and of faculty, similar to what we've talked about previously as learning communities for our students. And then again, from the professional development piece, we'll talk about, again, some cultural competencies that aid us in retaining the faculty that we're going to hire, again, who are underrepresented. Just in conclusion, the plan, again, is focused on our one college goal, again, a way to attract our unrepresented faculty, and again, attracting faculty that are more reflective of our student body, that also meets those needs economically that Dr. LeBlanc already shared, from a economic development model, and then individually creating some economic mobility for people as they attain their new credentials. I think that's our last slide.
That is, Gloria. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And at this time, we'll certainly entertain any questions or comments.
Thank you for your presentations, both of you. I don't really have a question about it, but I would love at some future opportunity to learn more in depth about the faculty first year experience program, just to hear exactly what that looks like and what you've been able to glean in terms of things to sustain about that program that seem to have worked in retaining faculty beyond their first year.
Yep. We'd be happy to give you that information. That has evolved over time because we want to ensure that the faculty that we hire understand Tarrant County College. We're huge and we're complex, and we want to make sure that they feel welcomed, that they feel that they belong here, and that we give them the information that they need in order to be successful. Every other post-secondary institution around us has a similar goal as us, and so they're recruiting heavily, and some have actually recruited some of our faculty, which, we're always happy for people to broaden their horizons, but we hate to lose those good people. So the first year experience, and then we have a follow-up second year experience, all of which is meant to really give our faculty as much support as we can. Thank you for asking that.
I would just say it strikes me that this is an important step in the one college approach. And it may cause some challenges because it's a change in the way we're doing business.
Yes, I mean, when you dig into some of the strategies, particularly the recruitment, the review of applicants, the interviewing of applicants, and the vetting of that, yes, as doing it as one college is a different approach where Previously, it was department by department and campus by campus. So somewhat of a culture shock as it relates to process, yes. But we feel that we need to rally around some common principles, if you will, if we're going to see any results.
Anybody have any questions or comments? Leonard?
Just sitting here thinking that means there will be hiring just done maybe like from the HR department, and then you will place them in the places where people need to go, as opposed to individual campuses.
How do you address that?
Right, so HR plays an important role in preparing the interviewing committees and such. They also play a very important role, and Gloria, you can chime in on this, in terms of casting a wider net to garner applications from, more applications from throughout Texas and other states, really. But we will be involving the campuses, because at the end of the day, they need to be involved to ensure that that the faculty member, again, is successful, is welcome, successful, et cetera. So Gloria, you may want to add to that.
Yes, thank you. I can't see who's asking the questions, but again, a good question. And our role will be, from a partnership perspective, to help provide training and then support to the hiring officials on the campuses. It's certainly not an opportunity that we're going to use to remove that autonomy that they have in being a part of the selection process, but it is to help guide the selection in a manner that helps us be successful in this effort. But certainly a partnership where we're all going to be involved in it together. And it won't be HR actually doing the hiring for them or instead of them.
Okay, thank you for that. It seems to me that it would become difficult to, as a one college, to have that same idea become really important on every campus, as opposed to having one central place. Yeah, all of them there together, maybe all the campus people from the campuses, but you're interviewing the same person, so you get all the same questions, you get the same expectations, you get the same feel. If you're still doing it individually, then it does not really support the one campus thing unless they're a part of the process, in my head. So I'm just trying to see how that really works.
So you actually touched on how the process will work. We will, through our office, we'll be a part of the hiring committees, whereas in the past we have not been involved in all the hiring committees, but providing that training on the front end to help guide the hiring and help with selecting candidates. We're going to be a part of that process and not necessarily taking full responsibility for it, but helping ensure that it's successful by being more involved in it on the campus level. So we would be the entity that would ensure common practices, common questions, common scoring, screening, and that type of thing that would bring the process to fruition.
Thank you for that. That helps.
Thank you. Good question. Any other questions or comments?
I would mention some other structural of how we go about doing business that will impact this, and particularly as it relates to the vice presidents who are certainly supportive of the one college movement, and the VPs will help lead this oneness, if you will, around the hiring. That has not happened previously either.
Can I ask a question? So as we're going through and looking at all these different demographics, and as you said, we supposedly didn't have enough Hispanic faculty, we still are going to hire the best qualified candidates, correct? Am I right on that? Are we just going on trying to get more of the different ethnicities? I'm just curious.
So this isn't about numbers. It's really truly about hiring the best.
That's what I was
for
making
our
sure.
students.
Okay.
And that is what we've always
So the
tried to
best
do.
qualified candidate.
It depends on what lens you use as to what you view as the best qualified. And we are not watering down anything, but we are casting a wider net, and we are going to include and interview individuals that in the past we might have overlooked.
So it's really in the essence of casting that wider net of more qualified people that in fact in the past may have not been captured.
Thank you. To add something just to her concern that was just voiced, you know, part of what people don't think about is if you look at our job postings right now, we have what's listed as the minimum qualifications required for any candidate to be successful in these roles. And from that perspective, we are not decreasing the qualifications. If that helps, I think probably paint a picture where you're talking about qualified. So all of the candidates will be qualified candidates based on the same qualifications we've posted previously. We're not requiring less education, less experience in order to teach at Tarrant County College.
Does that answer your question? Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, the very last briefing item speaks to our HERF and COVID relief funding, and it's for your review. Let me just highlight, as I mentioned earlier, we had 4 items today that total around $8 million that we'd be asked for you to consider next week. But in total, right now, again, the HERF funding is broken down into student funding and institutional funding, and as a running tab, if you will, we have about $36 million remaining in the student funding side to be utilized through next spring. And that, again, helps direct support to students, eligible students, to assist them in their continued enrollment. On the institutional funding side, we have about $57 million remaining, minus the 8 that you might look at for next week. And again, those speak to safety improvements of facilities and various technology enhancements for remote learning and different operations around technology. And that, again, also is needed to be expended by next spring. There is talk of a potential extension to the institutional funding. The fact of the matter is that, given the constraints in which how it's used and being able to utilize it in the short period of time that we have is a challenge. So that is, again, an information item that you have in your packet. Thank you.
Okay, does that complete our agenda? Do we have an executive session? So, do we have language we need to put in the record on?
There's lots of work that informs the thoughts of the community. So the areas what we do for the audit is that they call the kickoff meeting. you.